Good evening. It's nearly 2 years to the day when Dylan Raiola committed to Nebraska, making him one of the highest-rated recruits in program history.
As the top-rated quarterback of his class, fans were giddy with the news, seeing him as a major turning point for the Huskers. Fast forward to today, and it appears his time as a Husker is possibly over. Sports director Clayton Collier joins us now. Clayton.
Aaron, Brian, last month Matt Rule said Dylan's decision to come to Nebraska legitimized the idea of the Huskers to other big-time recruits. Well, after 2 seasons in Lincoln, quarterback Dylan Raiola plans to enter the transfer portal when it opens on January 2nd. That, according to multiple reports, including one from ESPN that Raiola briefly posted on his Instagram story before deleting this afternoon. His expected departure is the final shoe to drop in the Raiola family exodus from Lincoln. Dylan's season came to an end when he suffered a broken fibula against USC to begin November. On November 19th, his brother Dayton Raiola decommitted from Nebraska. 1 week later, the first of several vague reports that indicate Dylan could test the transfer waters. And then 9 days ago, Matt Rule fired Dylan's uncle Donovan Raiola after 4 seasons as the Huskers O-line coach. All leading up to today and Raiola's reported intention to leave Nebraska. Now, the news won't impact Nebraska's bowl prep. They've been rolling with TJ Lateef at quarterback for 6 weeks now. Now, what comes next for the Huskers when the portal opens in January? Well, we'll have more on that coming up in sports.
Clayton, thanks.